Mr. Leader, a follow-up on that, on the State of the Union coming up this Tuesday. Last year, you sat next to Jeb Hensarling, the House Republican Conference chairman, and many other lawmakers also tried to turn this into a sort of date night where they were emphasizing this message of bipartisan cooperation. This time around, it seems like some lawmakers are doing that, but as we saw over the past year, this didn't really end up in any kind of substantive agreement among lawmakers of both parties. So, first of all, do you have any plans this year to sit next to someone from across the aisle on Tuesday? And secondly, is there any more substance to this besides just the fact that it's nice to see members one day of the year sitting next to each other in the House chamber?
Well, I'm not making any plans to do so, though I would not be opposed to doing that. Jeb and I are very, very friendly toward each other. Remember, we sat in the same room with each other for several weeks as members of the so-called super committee. I interact a lot with Trey Gowdy, the Republican from the 4th Congressional District in South Carolina, Tim Scott from the 1st Congressional District. We are very friendly toward each other. But, you know, all of that style is good. But there is no substitute for substance. I will always go for substance over style. And so I try very hard to look for ways to have substantive interactions with the other side, lay out a program that can be done. I've done that with Congressman Whitfield, down here, a Republican, very conservative. But we've laid out a vision as to how we can create jobs in the rural sector as well as conserve energy in doing so, but I can't get my Republican friends to go along with that program.
Let me follow up on that point, Congressman Clyburn. Why is it so hard? And I know the blame game goes back and forth, Democrats blaming Republicans, Republicans blaming the Democrats. You've got the 60-vote rule for most bills in the Senate. But bottom line, you talk about substantive policy issues. Why can't both parties work together on some of the major issues, most notably bringing down the debt and the deficit? Why can't it be done?
Well, because we live in what I like to call a soundbite environment. I think that the people now play to the 30-second soundbite. You've noticed from some of the callers into your programs this morning, they got all excited when Newt Gingrich, quote, put Juan Williams in his place, when Newt went after the media, and that's all they're talking about here this morning. And I think that that's what we've got to face as, as decision makers. A lot of times when I go to the airport, people come up to me and they say little things that really has got no real relationship to reality. But it's what they think because they've picked it up from some 10 or 15-second soundbite that gets looped over and over and over again, and people tend to buy into that. And that's why it's so difficult. And I think about that, Newt was correct. It's very difficult to pass laws, to have a meaningful, substantive discussion because people make up their minds based upon headlines they may have read or some soundbite they may have heard.
Susan Ferriccio of the Washington Examiner.
And also, Congressman Clyburn, you might also agree that part of the reason Congress can't agree on anything is the two sides are just so divided philosophically about how to move forward. Just a few minutes ago, you mentioned President Obama and entitlement spending and that he would not shred entitlement spending, in your opinion, which I think Democrats believe Republicans would like to do with the Paul Ryan plan. But you really need to move forward with this. There was a $1 trillion plan to cut spending that Congress was supposed to put in place over the past year. You were a member of that super committee. You guys weren't able to come to an agreement. At the time, you said everything needs to be on the table, not just tax increases, but entitlement spending plans that would perhaps reduce the benefit or reduce the spending on those issues, on Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Can you talk a little bit about how to move forward on that? And do you think that there need to be some form of entitlement reform moving forward? Because Congress will have to come up with these cuts in the coming year, or they'll take place automatically, as you know.
Sure. Everything should be on the table, and I've said that time and time again. But let's remember, when we did the Affordable Care Act, Democrats in Congress, the president laid it out, we reformed Medicare to the tune of $500 billion. We did that. And we expanded the life, or extended the life of Medicare by about 14 to 16 years. That was a fact. That got misrepresented to the American people. It got looped in a 10 or 15-second soundbite, went over and over again, and Democrats lost the senior vote by 15 points simply because seniors are made to believe we did something we didn't do. The fact of the matter is, every chance we get, we lay out visions that sometimes get misrepresented, and it all depends upon which news channel would like to get what headline as to what happens to us. Now, let me give you an example. All of us know that the overseas contingency account will have somewhere around $700 billion that can be recouped and used not to expand, but that can cut taxes, can also really fund some of the educational opportunity programs, extend the tax cuts that we should do for middle-income people by extending the payroll tax cut. We can do that, and do that within 60 days. You can use the overseas contingency account. The money's there to do that, and everybody knows it's there. Now, my Republican friends keep saying that's funny money. Well, if it is, why did they put it in the Ryan plan? They put that in the Ryan budget as a way they would use to go forward. But they wanted to do something else with it and give this big tax cut to millionaires and billionaires that we Democrats are not inclined to do. And 70% of the American people tend to agree with us on that. And so that's why we can't get together. It's still that lower quintile, lower 20%, that seem to be household income seem to be expanding 15, 16%, and that upper 20% seeing a 65% increase in their household income, upper 1%, 275% increase in their household income. We want everybody to move together in an equitable way. And I use the word equitable and not equal.
We have just a couple more minutes. Felicia Sunmans of the Washington Post.
To steer us back to national, national politics a little bit for a minute. As you know, there's going to be the first special election of 2012 coming up on January 31st in Oregon's 1st District, a seat that Democrats have held since 1974. Now looks like it could end up falling into Republican hands. How much of a must-win is this seat for Democrats, and what will it say if Republicans prevail there in 9 days from now?
Well, I do believe we will hold that seat. The young lady who is our candidate out there has a tremendous record, and I think that she is broadly in the center on political issues. We have the Republican opponent who's been revealed to have some pretty radical things in his record. So I think we're going to be okay. You always want to win every election, and we like to say that everyone is the most important. But irrespective of what happens out there in Oregon, I do believe that Democrats are poised to do very well this year and in November, and I fully expect for the House to come back in the Democratic hands and for the Senate to remain so.
Follow up on that point?
Quick follow up on that.